Hello, my name is Dustin Draper. I'm an attorney here at the Packard Law Firm, and if you're watching this video, it's because an initial application has been filed on your case, and you're now at the first step in the application process. Now, the purpose of this video is to tell you everything you need to know about your case now that the initial application has been filed. And I have a presentation that I want to show you that will kind of go through some important topics that may be helpful to you as you go through this process. But before we get into those topics, I want to start by showing you a picture. So here we have a picture of a horse. Now this is not just any type of horse, this is actually a Clydesdale. And Clydesdales are among the largest horses in the world. You can see from this picture how large the horse actually is when standing next to a human. This is actually one of the famous Budweiser horses that you may have seen in those Super Bowl commercials. Now, I learned something recently about horses that really fascinated me, and it teaches us something valuable about teamwork. And I want to talk about this because this is an important concept that will be critical to understand as we handle your case. So, first question is, how many pounds can one Clydesdale horse pull? And you may be surprised that one horse can pull up to 8,000 pounds, which is just incredible. Now the question is, how many pounds can two horses pull? Now you might think to yourself, well, if one horse can pull 8,000 pounds, then if you have two of them together, they can pull twice as much, maybe 16,000 pounds. But you might be surprised. I was shocked when I learned that when you have two horses together, they actually can pull more than twice as much. They can pull up to 3 times as much weight, so up to 24,000 pounds. Now I'm not sure exactly how the horses do this, but this teaches us something very powerful about teamwork. And that leads into a quote that I love, which is this. This is from Helen Keller. "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." Now, you may be wondering, well, what does all this have to do with your disability case? Well, in a way, now that you've hired an attorney to represent you on your disability case, we are now a team with you. And if we work well together, we can accomplish much more than you could accomplish by yourself if you were applying for benefits, or if we were just doing the case with no involvement from you whatsoever. So the way we work together is very, very important. And of course, we've all been a part of teams. Some teams work well together and some don't work well together. In fact, I have a background here for this presentation of a football field. And I'm a huge football fan, and the thing I love about football is that you can have a team that maybe has athletes that aren't as athletic or as fast or as strong, and they can beat a team that has the better athletes if their teamwork is better. And so I'm hoping at the end of this video you can understand the role that you have in this team, and also the role that we have as your attorneys. And by working together, we're going to be able to maximize your chances of getting your case approved. So before we get into all of that, let's go ahead and talk about what to expect at this stage. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the larger timeline of the disability application and appeal. Okay, so your case is now at the initial application stage. If it gets denied, then it will go on to reconsideration and appeal. And then if that gets denied, it goes on to a hearing appeal. And then beyond that, you have the option to appeal to the appeals council and even up to a district court. And hopefully at any one of these stages your case can get approved, and hopefully the sooner the better. But this first step is all going to be focused on the initial application. So that's what we're going to be talking about here today. So, and so let's first talk about kind of the duration of this, what we expect, how long this stage usually takes. So the step one, the initial application, normally takes 2 to 3 months. And after step one, it goes on to step two, which is where the case gets transferred to the DDS office. This is a Social Security office, and they do a review, and that normally takes 3 to 5 months. And at the end of the second step, Social Security will make their first decision on your case of whether or not you're disabled under their rules. Okay, now I say normally on these timelines. Sometimes they go faster and sometimes they take longer. Right now we are seeing the timeline take a little longer than what we typically see. But again, that's most of that is out of our control. We want to do everything we can to not slow it down. And so the goal at step one, initial application, is to get your case filed with Social Security and transferred to the decision maker so they can start their medical review. Okay, so that's kind of what to expect here. Now, let's talk a little more specifically about what Social Security does at this stage. So we have a little timeline here of this is kind of the first step. So the first thing that happens on your case is Social Security receives all your initial application materials. So that likely will be an online application, and it will also be some actual physical documents that we hand deliver or send by certified mail to Social Security. Now, after Social Security receives your documents, they gather it all together, and then they send you a copy of everything that we submitted. And the letter that you get looks something like this. Okay, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later. But after you review that letter, you sign at the end of, you sign the letter that they send you and you send it back to them. And once they receive that, they will do some preliminary checks on your case to make sure you're eligible for benefits. They want to make sure that even before they look at your medical records, they want to just make sure that you even qualify for the benefits. Like if you've paid your FICA taxes, if there's nothing that prevents you from even obtaining benefits. Okay. And after Social Security does that review, and I should say most of the time you don't have issues with that because we've already looked at your case for those types of problems. But after Social Security does their review, then they're going to transfer it to a special office called DDS, and they'll do the medical review. And that basically is the second step. Okay. Now, let's talk about what the Packard Law Firm does at this stage. Okay, so the first thing we do at stage one is we submit your application in its entirety. We also review your case to see if you're eligible for other programs within Social Security. Also, we submit supporting documents to Social Security that help speed up the process. And these are either hand-delivered or sent to Social Security by certified mail. Here's kind of an example of a receipt that we send. An important part of this is that we keep receipts of everything that we submit to Social Security, because sometimes Social Security loses things, and that can be very frustrating when that happens. And that's why we do keep a paper trail of everything that we submit. And then next, we also monitor your case. We, after we submit all our materials, we will typically check in with Social Security. And if the process seems to be taking too long, we will follow up with them to see if there's some type of problem or anything that we can provide to help speed up the process. And then the final thing we do is we provide periodic updates to you. And these updates are typically sent out through our case status app that you can download. Or if you don't want to use the app or you don't have access to a smartphone, these updates come to you as a text message. Okay, so that's kind of like our role at step 1. All right, now let's talk about what you can do at this stage. Okay, and this is the most important part of what I'm going to share with you today. If you forget everything else that I've already talked about, don't forget this, because now I'm going to tell you the specific things that you can do to help in this process. Okay, and there's really 3 things that are very helpful. The first thing is, if you have not already done so, you can watch our new client webinar that is posted on YouTube. And this has a lot of helpful tips on what you can do to improve your chances of getting approved. And especially what you can do from a medical standpoint with your doctors to generate the evidence that will convince Social Security that you're unable to work. Okay, and this is kind of what the video looks like. And if you can't find that video, you can send us a message through case status. We can send it to you, or you can just look for Packard Law Firm new client webinar on YouTube. We'll also include a link to this video in the description of this video you're watching now. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing that you can do that's very helpful is to check your mail regularly to see if Social Security has sent you the summary of what we filed. You need to review it, sign it, and return it. Okay, and I want to again show you what this will look like. The letter looks something like this, and it indicates that a application has been submitted by the Packard Law Firm, and there's 3 really important things that the letter will ask you to do that we can't do for you. Okay, and it's these first 3 bullet points. So the first thing is you can just review the information that we submitted. Okay, now sometimes some of that information is incorrect, so if anything is incorrect, then simply cross it out, write the correct information, and put your initials next to it. And then finally, sign and date the application and send it back into Social Security. Okay, so that's the second thing. And then the third thing you can do is to complete the function report and work history report. Now, Social Security does not need these forms at this stage, but in the future they will request them. And so if you can go ahead and complete these forms and send them to us, then we can store them, so the moment Social Security requests them, we can submit them immediately. And unfortunately, Social Security doesn't allow us to really answer these questions for you, because this is really your testimony. Okay, and there's 2 forms that they typically ask. One is called the function report and the work history report. Now, to make it easy to fill out these forms, we actually have a link to a form that you can fill out either on your phone or on a computer. And in the description of this video, at the bottom of this video, there's a link that you can click on to get either of these reports. Of course, if you can't find the link, you can just send us a text message or send us a message through case status, and we can just send you the link that way. Now, if for some reason you don't want to fill these out on your phone or on a computer, some people like to just fill it out by hand with a pen and paper, just reach out to us. We can send you a copy of a PDF version of this form. Okay, so if you get this to us, again, this just speeds up the process later. And so those are really the 3 things. If you do those 3 things, that's very, very helpful, and that really ensures that the process will go quickly. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that sometimes Social Security will send sometimes they will not send the application. They'll actually just process it and send it on to the next stage. And if that's the case, we will be monitoring the case, and we'll let you know. So if you don't see this application summary, they do move slowly. Just give it time. As long as you're checking your mail, you should be fine. Okay. Now, in terms of working with the Packard Law Firm, there's a few things to keep in mind, some things of when to contact us, but also some things that we ask you not to do that can kind of slow the process. So first of all, let's talk about when to contact the Packard Law Firm. So the first thing is, if your address or phone number ever changes, please reach out to us. This information is absolutely critical because Social Security will be sending periodically, they'll send mail to your address. And sometimes, even though they're supposed to send letters to us, sometimes they fail to do so. Sometimes Social Security may also reach out to you by phone. And so we always need to keep that current. Also, and a lot of clients have questions about if they need to contact us about their medical treatment. And you have already kind of given us a brief history of your medical treatment. And so we don't typically need an update of when you go to see the doctor. However, it is helpful and it is important to contact us if you go to any new clinic or hospital that you haven't told us about previously. Also, if you have any major medical development, so this would be like a hospitalization, a surgery, an MRI, or other imaging that has severe findings in it. Okay, so again, it's got to be something very major. Just your routine visits for doctors that you've already told us about, you don't need to be contacting us each time. Okay, also, if your doctor gives you a prescription for an assistive device like a cane or walker, then that is probably something that we would like to know about. And in fact, you don't even necessarily have to tell us. You can just snap a picture of the prescription for, let's say it was a cane. You can take a picture of the prescription and you can text that to us or send it through the case status app or email it to us as well. Okay. Also, if your doctor ever gives you anything in writing describing his opinion as far as your limitations, if you get something in writing like a letter from your doctor or any of the opinion forms that we may have given you, then go ahead and send us a copy of this. Okay? And then the last thing is, if Social Security sends you any letters that you don't understand, sometimes they will send you requests for things that are outside the scope of this video. And if you ever get anything that you're not quite sure what to do with, just take a picture of the first page and send it to us by text or through the case status app or by email. Okay, you don't need to send the entire document because we're familiar with all their documents. If we just see the first page, we'll know what to do with it. Okay, now let's talk about a few things not to do. Okay, now when I say don't do these things, if you do these things, it's not the end of the world, but it just slows the process down. So I'm just asking you, please, to not do this. And you've got this, I don't know if you've seen the cartoon Puss in Boots. My kids love this. And so I'm just asking you to kindly avoid doing these things because they generally will slow the process down. Okay? So first thing is, we don't need copies of all your medical records. So you don't need to send that to us. You also don't need to send it to Social Security because typically the client will not have a complete set of their medical records. And so Social Security will typically reorder the records and it will create duplicates in the file and it just slows the whole process down. Also, you don't need to contact us every time you go to the doctor unless it's a new clinic or hospital that you haven't told us about. Every time you tell us that you've been to a doctor, we have to kind of take the time to check to make sure to see if we know about this doctor, and that time we're spending doing our due diligence to verify that provider. That's time that we is not really helping your odds of winning. It's just kind of taking up time, and that's time we could be using in a more useful endeavor on your case. Also, you don't need to call Social Security to check on your case. And we ask you not to do this mainly because we're already doing this. We are checking with Social Security on your case. Social Security will get bothered if they see that we're calling you and then you're calling. It slows them down. And of course, if they get delayed, that's just going to delay the decision on your case. And then finally, don't stop getting medical treatment. The medical treatment is the most important part of your case. That's the most important thing that will determine whether you win or lose. Now, our new client video goes into this in more detail, so I won't say anything more than that. But that's very, very important. Okay, so that all covers what you can do at stage 1. Okay, so I hope this video was informative, and if you have any questions, please reach out to us. And the best way to contact us is through the Case Status app, or you can always call or text or email as well. And thank you so much, and hope you have a great day. Bye.